No, I won't.
Hello, everybody. We are just logging in to get started on Tuesday Live Get Organized Challenge. Everybody, come on, dance and sing. Everybody, get up and do your thing. Can you tell how old I am? Because I'm singing music from Madonna's original album. You must be a lucky star. What do we got going on, Lundy?
We got some eyeballs.
We have some eyeballs. That means we're here. We're alive, awake, alert, enthusiastic. Now, that is not a Madonna song. That is a camp song. Okay. Well, we wait for everything to come online, and I get some feedback from Katie saying everything is good to go. I want to talk to you a little bit about the paper cart, which was released on HSN last week and is currently showing up as sold out on HSN. I don't think that that is true, but we're looking into it. We do have it on our website, though. So if you are looking for the paper cart and the top and the apron that goes with it, on our website, you get the top with the paper cart. That's a little bit different than the HSN bundle. And then we also have the aprons and we have the magnetic design. So there was quite a few questions about that this morning because they're showing is out of stock on HSN. They are available on our website, the cart with the tabletop. So if you're looking for that. Also the storage and supply cases back in stock this week. Yay! So if you've been waiting for those, I did put out a little video about stacking them up. So you can stack maybe 3 or 4 of them. I guess it depends how heavy they are, how fully loaded they are. You'll kind of know once you stack them up. I think I've had as many as 5 stacked up, but then you can build this little, well, I'll show you really quickly. Some of them, I guess, kind of are going to work with our tool things. So like this is my foil quill. Right? So that's a tool. If you want to label your drawers on the front, sorry, I'm kind of talking out of order here, but I got a post today or a message today from somebody who said, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. I didn't realize I could do this. So depending on, I would say put your 4 drawers at the top because the 4 drawers you have the top drawers are kind of in the back, but depending on the weight of them, if you get those drawers labeled, so this is Cricut tools, this is dies and stamps, this is foil for my foil quill, this is the foil quill itself. So it just makes a great little organizer. And I am working on a shelving unit for these so that you can do this and keep them really close together, but go a little bit higher with it. But I would say 3 to 4 of them are going to stack up with no problem if you are needing to get that organized. So it's a great way to pull them off the shelf and stack them on your work table instead of having to spread them all out on your work table. So if you're unfamiliar with the storage and supply cases, we'll talk a little bit about them at the end of class today when I talk about products, but those are some comments that popped up in my email this morning. So, all right, are we ready? Woo, woo. You know what I think I forgot, which London you may have to grab for me? Over on the printer over there, I think there's the printed out who's the winner this week, I hope. Yes, okay, good. Okay, welcome to Get Organized Challenge number 5, and today we are talking about tools. And what you're gonna learn today in class is that we are using the foundation that we have set for every other thing. We're using the same idea and the same strategy, and now we're gonna apply it to stamps, punches, dies, all of those types of things. I'll talk a little bit about hand tools today as well, but the majority of the class kind of centered around knowing where your tools are in terms of things that you create with stamps, punches, dies, embossing folders, that type of thing. So if you're new to the Get Organized Challenge, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. The previous challenges are posted on the website. So if you missed the first ones, you want to go back and watch them, you can watch those videos posted on the beginning and get all the handouts and all that type of thing right there on the website. If you have a question, if you type the word question in all caps, it'll pop up in the feed, and either London or Katie, who are both watching the feed, will get that question to me, and I will do my best to answer it. Winner. Who's the winner? Okay, winners this week. So we have 2 winners. We have our Progress Post winner. Progress Post winner this week. Congratulations going out to Karen Beecham. Her progress report. I haven't been able to post for a couple of weeks, so below is a picture of my paper sorted. Woo woo! I've managed to file my USBs and DVDs using the 4-section system. And this week I sorted embellishments, waiting for my scrap rack pages to arrive. Awesome, awesome job. And there's a couple of pictures there. Thank you, Tiffany. My craft supplies have never been so organized. Well, thank you for coming to class, and thank you for putting all the ideas in class to work in your craft room. It inspires me to know that you're getting more organized, but your posts also inspire other people to join the challenge, get organized, and know that they can do it. They can get the work done. This can be a really overwhelming task. So when we post our progress, it inspires other people to get busy and to do it and to look and say, she did it, I can do it, right? So, okay, ugly embellishment paper winner is Joy Gardner. And yeah, I'm just gonna agree, Joy, very ugly, interesting. Looks like so those are on Facebook if you wanna see those. I don't have a good picture of them to post them. But Joy and Karen, first of all, Joy, get the stickers, hideous. I don't know how long you've had them, but I'm guessing they've been around for a while. They look like something that was early in the scrapbooking world, right? Okay, Joy and Karen, reach out to Crafters Prizes at crafterscompanion.com. Katie will make sure the people on Prize Patrol have your, you know that you're a winner, and they will get you hooked up with your gift certificate so you can choose whatever you need. So after class today, you're gonna get your gift certificate. You may have a few products that you wanna get, and that is the big bonus for putting up your progress post, so that you get that, if you're chosen, you get that prize. Okay, sorry, there's already things popping up. Jerry Lou from YouTube says, picked up the 3-drawer special and can't wait to get it. Oh yeah, so the storage and supply cases, thanks for reminding me, those are on special this week. So if you buy all 3 of them, they come in a bundle. So when you get to the website, and I'm sure Katie will put some links up. When you get to the website on the storage and supply case page, down at the bottom, there's a bundle of the 3 of those. So keep your eye out for that. And if you have never tried them, that's a great way to get to try all 3. If you've tried them and you love all 3, you're gonna have some savings on that as well. Okay, there was something else that I wanted to bring up this morning. I'm sure it'll pop back into my little pea brain. No, I already talked about the cart, right? Okay, challenges of organizing our tools. They're all different sizes and shapes, all the different manufacturers. Stamps come on different size acetate sheets. Woodblock stamps are totally different sizes of wood. Embossing folders come in different sizes. Punches are all different sizes. We've got our punch boards. Those are difficult. So the biggest challenge with organizing tools is that they're all different sizes and shapes. So you can't put them all into your scrap rack. They're not all going to fit in your die stamp and supply organizer. And so that's the biggest challenge. But we're going to apply that same principle of linking back, right? We've talked about it all the way through. Like, how do you remind yourself of what you have, whether it's a paper collection or a kit that came in the mail or that type of thing, with memorabilia that goes with photos, all of those things, right? We talk about linking back. We're going to do that same thing with these tools, and we're going to apply the 4-section system to them as well. So the first thing that you have to determine is, are you a Nancy not so much or a Gloria got a lot? Because if you're Nancy, that means you have a few of each thing, a few embossing folders, a few stamps, maybe some dies, but you're not an addict for those type of tools. You're not going to have a big collection. Generally, Nancy is a gal who gets a few stamps or dies just for a particular project, rather than collecting dies and stamps or being really a dedicated card maker and having all those sentiments and that type of thing. So if you're Nancy, not so much, you are going to integrate examples of your tools right into your 4-section system, into your scrap rack. If you are Gloria got a lot, and Glorias are much more common in our paper crafting world, that means you have lots of stamps and dies and embossing folders, and you love them, and you're probably going to acquire more. So we want to make sure that we are setting you up to be successful with tool organization. so that as you bring more supplies in or more tools in, you're ready to add those to your collection in a way that you're going to remember that you have them and you're going to use them. Now, if you are currently a Nancy, but you feel like you love dies or you're loving stamps or whatever, and your collection is going to grow, then I'm going to strongly recommend that you follow the Gloria path and start your cataloging rather than incorporating those examples into your 4-section system as individual examples. I'm going to show you both of them. All right. Trying to stay on track here today. So, okay. So creating a representation of each individual thing that you have. So this is a representation of an embossing folder. What I did initially was when I was setting up my catalog, is that I tried to create I actually was running every embossing folder through my machine to get that example. It was difficult and time consuming because every embossing folder and every different manufacturer, everything needed a different shim to go through. It wasn't fast that way. And so I thought, how can I do this even more quickly? So this is just a Crayola. I bought a new box of crayons and I did a rubbing of the embossing folder. So this is the both sides. So this is what it looks like if relief, emboss, deboss, however you say that, right? There's 2 patterns on every embossing folder. So I just did a little rubbing of it. Now this is birthday party hats. So this is a big example too. I would probably normally do something smaller. So if I want to remember that I have this birthday party hat embossing folder, I'm going to do something like this if I'm Nancy, and I'm going to add it to the birthday section of my scrap rack or however I'm storing. Maybe I'm using scrap masters or project planners or something like that to keep collections together. Wherever that birthday thing is, I'm going to say this is an embossing folder and it's going to be with the rest of the embossing folders, but now I can remember that I have it over there in my birthday section, right? So if you're Nancy, you're just going to add it to your current 4-section system. But if you're Gloria, you're going to create a catalog. We're going to talk more about that after we get through Nancy. So depending on what it is, sorry, I have some messages popping in here from Katie. So let me questions popping in from Katie. Carolyn Hanley this is what I wanted to say. If you are following us on YouTube, make sure that you click the subscribe button and the bell button. And that way, every time we go live or we post a new video on YouTube, you will get that notification. If you are not currently following us on YouTube or using YouTube and you decide to hop onto YouTube, again, make sure you subscribe to the Totally Tiffany channel and push the bell button. And that way, every time a new product comes out or a new video comes out, you'll know about it. This week, like when the storage and supply cases came back, I popped onto YouTube, put up a little video that said, hey, these are back. This is what they are. So not only is it a good way to know what classes are being taught and that type of thing, it's also a good way to get a notification about back in stock products and then see a little short, they're usually less than a minute, video about what that is. So if it's something that you need or something that you're interested in, you're going to know that it's back and you're going to know why you might need it or how it might help you get organized. Okay, Carolyn Hanley on Facebook says, what if you are a bit of both? For example, few of everything, dies, embossing folders, but Gloria, say for stamps. Would this make you a Gloria overall? I would absolutely say err on the Gloria side. Catalogs make things really, they're a lot of work. One of the things that you need to be aware of in this class is that it's very easy to get overwhelmed just at the thought of the task ahead of you. So I want you to let that sink in a little bit, that it is easy to get overwhelmed with this task, and you don't want to do that to yourself. So really, kind of stick to those small blocks that we're going to talk about as we go forward. But it's always going to be better to err on the Gloria side. And for everything. If you're starting the catalog for stamps, even though you only have a few dies or a few embossing folders or punches, you still want to see those. So let's say you have a bunch of birthday stamps, a couple of birthday embossing folders, a couple of birthday dies, a couple of birthday punches. You might as well, when you go to that birthday section of your catalog, see all of those things in one place. Because just like seeing all of our supplies when we go to a section in our scrap rack, seeing all of our tools together is going to inspire you to use more of those tools and supplies because they pop up right in front of you and you know where they are. So I would definitely, that's a great question, Carol Ann. I would definitely go Gloria on that, in that situation. Okay, so Nancy, you're gonna make those examples. You're gonna put a notice on the example of where it is. Like, this is simple. It's an embossing folder. So you may have all of your embossing folders stored in a fab file. You may have all of your embossing folders and your stamps and everything stored together in a die stamp supply organizer. But you want a notification on your example of where you're gonna find that particular item, right? That's really the key. This example is going to drive you to where this is stored rather than you trying to remember where they are. So it's going to be pretty simple. Now you will need to do multiple examples of things, right? So if you have a stamp that's a gift box, like a present, you might say, okay, this is going to work in baby, it's going to work in graduation, it's going to work in birthday, it's going to work in Christmas, it's going to work in celebration, it's going to work in wedding. So there's 6 categories. So you may take that stamp as a Nancy and stamp it out 6 times and then make sure that each one of your categories has that example and tells you where that stamp is located, so that if you are working on wedding, you see that you have that stamp. The other nice thing about this is, about creating this catalog and doing these examples, is if you're working on a wedding card, you know that you have to have a small gift, right? It's not going to work if it's a giant stamp of a gift or too long or anything like that. So having the examples also lets you know right away, this is the right size or not the right size, too big, too small. Sorry, I have a little tickle in my throat today. Okay, Gloria, which most of you are going to create a standalone catalog, a catalog of everything in your collection and where to find it. So I pulled out here a couple of pages, different catalogs and different types of ways of doing it. So this is a catalog. Here's another thing. I use my ugly paper that's single-sided. So this is white on one side. It happens to coincidentally be hearts on the other side, but I don't actually like the paper or the color of the paper or the quality of this paper. So I was going to purge it, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, I can use it in my catalog because I'm going to put another piece of paper on the back side so that I'm just using the white side. So it's a good use of catalog paper. So Nancy, not so much. You may want to add a sheet like this. These are hearts. When I think of hearts, I think of Valentine's Day. I don't think of shapes. You're probably going to have a category for shapes, but I could put this right into the Valentine's section of my scrap rack. And when I'm working on Valentine's Day, I'm going to go there and I'm going to see, you can see the blue labels on here. That's where those are located in my craft room, right? So whether they're in a die file or they're in, this is a Stephanie Bernard stencil, it's in a stencil box where I can find all those things. So that might be, if you're a Nancy, not so much, that might be what your single page looks like right in your 4-section system or in your whatever tool you're using, so that it reminds you of all of those things, right? If you are regular Gloria, and every time I say Gloria, I think Gloria. Again, my age is showing, right? Okay, so this catalog is all of the different tools and supplies, and they are organized in that same 4-section system. But I've also been able to add in here things like the instruction sheets for my We Are punch boards. Okay, so anything like that is going to be a perfect location for storing it in your catalog. These are my Leah France 12 by 12 stencils, right? So this is all of the stencils that they make, the collection. So I've made 2 copies of this. I've got one in my catalog. I've got one in the front. It tells me what I already own in Leah France. And then I've got all the Leah France stencils in there. Now I saved the packaging with them because the packaging has ideas on it. But you want to incorporate anything like this into your catalog. Remember, your goal is to get everything into a place where everything is going to be visible and accessible and remind you of what you've got. So it doesn't matter if it's stamps or punches or dies. This is where I just photocopied an entire storage and supply case. See if I have it right here. That particular one is here. Yep. So these are all alphabet stamps and birthday stamps. I made 2 copies of it. I'm going to give you another little trick. So this is the 1-inch store and go bag. If you put it in backward, you put the tray in backward, then you can just put that on your copy machine and make a photocopy. And that's what I did right here, right? So this happens to be birthday and alphabet, 2 copies, one in the birthday section, one in the alphabet section, with a note, a label on it about the bag, what bag they're in. So one of the things about this is that you do not have to, actually stamp out everything. There are some tips and tricks for making it faster. I prefer that you either photocopy or that you actually stamp out each stamp, because then you have the exact size of the stamp. If you're doing things with digital photos, which you absolutely can do, and create that OneNote notebook or Evernote or something like that, it'll work well in the sense that it'll be easy to catalog all of those things. But it's difficult in a photograph because they're not the exact size. So when you create your catalog, whether you're actually stamping out each thing or you're photocopying it, you're getting the true size so you know. Why is that important? It's important because if you are, we talked about this and we talked about organizing your alphabet stickers, die cuts, all that kind of stuff when we did the 4-section system. Because you have a finite amount of space to work with. So if you're making a card that says happy birthday and you have this tiny picture of an alphabet, you don't know if those letters are 1 inch or 2 inches or 1/4 inch because the photo is small. Now you can always go in and label each one of those photos with the dimensions of each, you know, the kind of dimensions of that alphabet size. It's going to be a lot of work though. So in that case, doing something like this, ABC 1, 2, 3, that gives you an idea of the size and shape of each of those alphabets. Now this happens to be this set. One of the things we're always talking about is that combine and conquer, right? How are you going to store those things? How are you going to make it easy? So this is uppercase, lowercase, and numbers in that set of wood stamps. So rather than spread them, have them in those 3 containers, I put all of them right here. This is a double-sided, this is SSG 17, double-sided stamp store and go bag, label down the side, whimsical alphabet. And now when I want to work with this alphabet set, I have uppercase and lowercase and numbers all together. And so instead of taking up this much space with containers that are weird so they won't stand up on the shelf, you know, we don't want to put things, we don't want to stack things on top of each other, right? Because they're so much easier to get to when we can go vertical. This allowed me to get the entire set of alphabets vertical. And then again, label on the side, goes on my shelf. It's like a library, right? But my instructions on here, my note on here tells me where I'm going to find those stamps on my shelf, in what bag. Sorry, I hear Katie's, my thing beeping away here. Sorry, I've been missing a lot, I guess. And Domres True on Facebook asks, when using the number system for cataloging and you purge some items, do you reuse those numbers for new items or just continue with the last number used? If the item fits, like embossing folders, I would reuse the number. Like if you lose something or you break it or it stops working for some reason, or, you know, sometimes dies that if they're not good quality, they don't cut. I would reuse the number if you have something that fits in that slot, right? So a lot of times, if you're talking about wood-mounted stamps, they're going to be difficult to do that with because the size-wise, so you would only be able to sub out the sizes that are going to fit in that slot with the wood. But things like stamps, unmounted stamps, dies, embossing folders, I would absolutely reuse. Like go through your catalog and remove the examples, and then you could reuse that number. I'm not sure how often that happens, but if you're a good purger, it probably happens often if you're purging things out. Although tools tend to be something that kind of stick around for a long time as long as they're working and functional. So a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of work there, but and if you don't reuse a number, it doesn't really matter because you're not looking for things like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You're looking for things, oh, this is embossing folder number 27, you're going to go right to 27. So if 26 was missing, it wouldn't matter. So you could go either way, whichever you're more like the OCD of your level of needing that consistency. Definitely easier not to reuse. Den Hughes on Facebook says, "Hi, Tiffany in London. I have the Gemini Build-A-Block patchwork dies, but although they are essentially nesting dies, they come in large boxes, which take up a lot of room. I'm toying with the idea of getting rid of the boxes and putting them with my other dies in the die file. Should I put a copy of the dies on the die file so that I can tell if there are any missing, etc., or should I keep them in the original box?" I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't have any of those. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen them. However, if you can use them for other things besides quilting, I would absolutely mix them in because the more you see those, the more likely you are to actually use them. Now, as far as the die file goes, I know there are a lot of people who are tracing around their dies right on the die file and even writing the dimensions of things right on the die file so that they do remember, because if you have a nesting dies that all work together, you definitely want to know what you're missing. So if you've seen a couple of examples where I photocopied or I laminated the example of the die and it's on there as well. So either way, it's like it's a sheet that sits on top of the die file. So either way is going to work, but I definitely think having that catalog, having that picture, whether it's written on there in your catalog or actually something laminated with your die file, is going to be very beneficial because you do want to know what you've got and what size it is and what's missing. So I would absolutely say yes. I don't know the sizes of those. Maybe you could let me know, and I can also take a look. I'll get on the Crafters Companion website and look. I don't do a lot of soft craft, so I'm not familiar with them, but especially if you can use it for paper. I mean, that's kind of my thing, right? The more ways you can use that tool, the better the tool is in turn. Like the more use you're going to get out of, the better investment it's become. So by putting all those things together, that's awesome. One of the things, I had a lot of fabric stencils, and so those went right into my stencil collection with everything else. When my girlfriend said, "Those are for fabric," and I said, "Yeah, they're for fabric, but I can use them for anything. I use them for etching. I use them for scrapbooking. I use them for home decor and also for fabric." So it's great that you have all those together because they're going to remind you and you're going to get a better use out of them. So if that is a reasonable possibility, I would absolutely say to do it. Leslie Tylus on Facebook says, "I have Stampin' Up! And Close to My Heart stamp sets. Do we take the stamps apart or keep them together? Also, do we take them out of the original stamp cases?" That is going to be a decision. Okay, taking them out of the original stamp cases. You do not have to do that. If you like the way they work in the original stamp cases, and it's an efficient method for storing them for you, depending on how your room or space is set up, by all means, leave them in there. The last thing I want you to do in any of these situations is create more work for yourself. It's smarter to think about this. I think they're in CD cases, some of those. I know my old Stampin' Up! Ones were the woodblock ones, so they were in those cases that were really difficult to store. So that those are kind of the things you have to weigh out. But if you can just tie them back. So I used to have, these are my old labels, right? Close to My Heart was in one basket where all of the Close to My Heart CD cases fit, or they were pockets. I think they were actually plastic pockets at that time. And then I had Stampin' Up, and I could only fit 9 boxes of the Stampin' Up in the basket that they were in. But it was the same thing. Close to My Heart stamps were in this basket, and they were labeled and numbered in the basket. Stampin' Up in this, both of them represented in the catalog. Now, the question about stamp sets that have multiple things in them, do you take the whole stamp set apart? I would say no. I would say, I think I have. Let me see if I have something in here that really speaks to that. In particular, these are wood stamps. Similar, I guess. Those are all birthday, though. So let's say you have a stamp set that has a mix on it. It has Thanksgiving stamps and Christmas stamps and Easter stamps on it. I would leave them all together in that package as a set and just photocopy that 3 times or stamp it out 3 times, put the whole set in Easter, the whole set in Thanksgiving, the whole set in Christmas, right? Just to keep the workload down on it for yourself and maximize the experience of getting it into your catalog and numbering everything in where it is, so that you can find it. But taking things apart, I'm not a huge fan of that. And again, depending on time, depending on how you're storing and all of that, you may want to do that. And if time and space are not any sort of issue, then it is going to be always better to have just what you need in each of those sections. But in practicality, it's better to just make 3 copies of that set and put the full example in each of those categories, in this case, holidays, so you don't have to keep redoing them. Anita Gaffney says, would you ever take stamps off the wood? Absolutely, 100%. I would absolutely do that. And the wood stamps take up a ton of space. I mean, I have tons of wood stamps on the wood still, mainly because what I'm doing and teaching, I need to be able to provide examples for everybody, regardless of whether you've taken them off the wood or you buy them not on the wood or you have the wood. I want to make sure that I can address that for you. But when you get those rubber stamps off the wood and use that acrylic block for them, they just take up so much less space. They're so much lighter. So I know some of us as wood stampers are a little bit more purists than others. We want that wood stamp. We like that wood block, which is great, which is totally fine. But if you're just talking about space and accessibility, especially because I have a bunch of red rubber stamps that I've just taken off the blocks and they fit really nicely in my scrap rack. And that is why I started doing it. So you just have to kind of weigh that out. I'm all about maximizing space, and woodblock stamps take up a ton of space, but they also look amazing, right? They look great on your shelf. They're almost decorative. They're fun and inspiring. So you have to weigh all of those things out, which is one of the biggest challenges, and especially when we talk about what storage tools to use at the very end. Everybody has a different room. They function differently, they craft differently, they move around differently, and that's the reason that we have so many different options. You really have to get to know yourself, what you want, what's the most important thing to you, space saving, visibility, if you're going to be traveling with things. One of the nice things about wood stamps and the store and go bags like this one is that you can take all of these stamps, which would take up a bunch of room on your shelf, and you can stand them up vertically on your shelf and use them like a library, but you can still see all of them. They're still protected and they're still travel. You could travel with them easily if that's something that you do. So just adding that label down the side gives you that library effect for the stamps, for this type of stamp. So hopefully that answered that question. Anita, would you put the catalog at the front of your scrap rack? Again, a personal, sort of a personal preference thing. I put my catalog in the center of my scrap rack. Really don't know why it's there. Probably because, I don't know, it's just in the middle. There's no really rhyme or reason to it. Some people leave their catalog off their scrap rack all the time. Some people build their catalog 8.5 by 11. There's some challenges to that. This is a very old, one of the original ones of stamps and punches here in that 8.5 by 11 format. One of the other beautiful things about creating the catalog is when you're shopping, especially now that we're doing most of our shopping online, it's really easy to go to your birthday section and see what you already have. So like this, I've got dies and stamps and punches all here in the birthday section. I've also got all the Stephanie Bernard stuff on pink paper, kind of pops out. This is, by designer. If you like to keep things by designer, you can also have a section that is just that designer, so that if you're shopping in that designer, you can do kind of a double whammy. That is the other thing that I would recommend. If you want a catalog by designer, Stephanie Bernard, Tim Holtz, Stampin' Up, do all the sections of the catalog that you want at the same time. There's some hesitation sometimes for people to, I'll go back and do all the Stephanie stuff, or I'll go back and do all the Tim Holtz stuff. And it really is much more difficult to do it the second time than the first. Okay, so let's talk about some of the challenges with it. It's kind of a weird challenge to actually go through the process of cataloging, and I've made some huge mistakes in the process, and I want to share those with you. The first mistake that I made was thinking that I knew where everything was going to fit and labeling it and cataloging it before I put it in the container. So my advice to you is, if you're going to we'll use this as an example. I probably have one that's got better catalogs in it. No. I would fill whatever it is. So this is obviously wood stamps. It might be embossing folders in a fab file, or it could be embossing folders in birthday cards. It could be embossing folders in your flippin' storage binder. You can see how I have the numbers on the tab and the numbers on the pocket. I put everything into this first. Well, first I numbered it, then I put everything into it, and then I made the examples, right? The reason you want to do that is because that way you won't. So I said, I'm going to do all of these in this stamp bag. Stamp bag number 1, I started doing that. Then when I tried to put them in the bag, they didn't fit, right? So I had labeled things stamp bag number 1, and they actually wouldn't fit in there. So my advice to you, whatever you're going to do, load it up first, and then make the example of it. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, I also, when I started doing this, I wasn't photocopying. I was literally stamping out each thing. And I also had so if you're going to do that instead of photocopy, here's another tip if you're using this. Oops, I just popped those out of there. I put a photocopy in the bottom of the tray. So when I pull a bunch of stamps out of this, the stamps are going to move around, and then it's like playing Tetris, trying to get them all back in there. So if you take an extra photocopy and put it in the bottom of the tray, when you pull stamps out, it's easy to fit them all back in the correct way. So I loaded up my tray like this. So I knew I maxed out the tray, how everything was going to fit, and you could apply this same theory to die stamp and supply organizer or a fab file or any one of those types of tools. I loaded it out, and then I labeled each one of the sets or the stamps. And then as I made the example, now again, this is before I got smart and started photocopying. But if you want to stamp out each example, once I stamped it out, I stood it up, right? So at the end of the day or the end of the time, I knew which things I had done. Like if I got up and got a cup of coffee or took a phone call or something, initially I stamped it and put it right back, stamped it and put it right back. And then I was like, okay, which ones have I done? So there's a couple of tips and tricks like that. There are a couple of blog posts on the website that really will take you through kind of the nitty gritty details of getting those tools organized and of the mistakes that I made going through the process of getting those tools and supplies organized. But that is one of the ones that really was major for me. And then again, in that first process, I did not even think about photocopying. And so photocopying, just putting it on your copy machine, your printer at home, if it copies, is really the easiest way to do a huge number of stamps and dies or stamps all at the same time. Now with dies, I cut all the dies. So like you could see on this is a border die, right? I cut that. This die, I cut that also so I could see it and see what it looked like layered up and see what the different sizes were. So it's really kind of helpful to do that. Again, these are wood stamp, unmounted stamps. So all the different things. Same idea though, 4-section system. I'm going to do my holidays and seasons. I'm going to do my themes and sentiments the same way, in the same thinking process as you go through for organizing everything else. So your brain is staying on that same channel, if you will, of knowing where to look for things and how to look for things. And the catalog process really streamlines all that. Now, the catalog process can be overwhelming because we have so many things. So it's really going to be important that you keep that in the front of your mind. I know I talked about this already. You can only do so much. You want to work through a whole box and finish it. Just like we talked about last week, right? Do one box, start to finish. Get that serotonin, get that boost in your brain that you are finishing things, that you're checking things off your list, because that stuff keeps you motivated. And try not to get bogged down with how much there is to do. One of the tricks to this is getting things out of your sight. So if you have, I don't know, thousands of wood stamps to catalog, and you're looking at thousands of wood stamps, your brain is going to start to shut down at the thought of that. It's going to be much better to take one little tub of wood stamps and go somewhere else to create that catalog, out of sight, out of mind of all those other things, because it'll be much more motivating than looking at the big task, right? If we just focus on that small task and get it done, you'll be much happier with that. So you are going to decide what type. So as you go through the process, you need to decide what types of storage you're going to use. Maybe you already have some, maybe you need some different things. Remember, always my goal is to maximize the space that I'm going to put those things into, your organized only space. Left to right, back to front, and top to bottom, what is going to fit the most efficiently in that space. Remember, you don't have to actually see everything. It just has to be accessible once that label's on it so that you can get to it. So I'll talk about products. I know the end of your handout has, I think, 3 pages of products that are going to be options depending on the type of crafter you are in this situation. So again, where you're going to store those things, what tools are you going to need? You want to have those things ready to go, right? So things you're already using, maybe things that you need to order or purchase, get those things ready to go, because the idea is you're going to put all of those embossing folders into the fab file. How many fit in there? Then you're going to start numbering and labeling those. Now, I would also, you'll see online that I use label tabs, are sticky, what are they called? Shut your flap tabs, to label almost everything. Well, dies are different than stamps, I guess. I'm not opposed to literally writing on the acetate of a stamp set, or writing physically on your embossing folder what the number is of that. The advantage of doing something like a tab is they stick up over the edge, so it's easier to find those things. Because they're up high and over the edge. So you're going to have to decide that as well. But I definitely have a lot of them that are just straight up labeled right on the thing. Now, if you've been with me a while, you've heard me say this before. Again, another mistake that I made. When I first started labeling embossing folders, the problem with embossing folders is you can't really tell what they look like. But most of them come with some image on the packaging that gives you a clear example of what they look like. So in this case, the packaging was just thin paper, right? So I cut that example off the packaging, ran it through my Xyron, and put it right on the embossing folder so I would know exactly what it would look like. However, sometimes the packaging, if I can find one here, is not thin. It's actually cardboard or paperboard, and it's thick. And when you put this, when I glued it down, the next time I used the embossing folder, where that was just a flat square rectangle on the paper that I was trying to emboss. And so I thought, oh, that's not a good idea, apparently, if you've got something thick like cardboard. So this one, I just used a piece of regular tape. And now when I use the embossing folder, I just flip it back. It's just like on a hinge. I flip it back. Come off there, you know. I flip it back. I feed the embossing folder through the machine. I get the full emboss that I need, and then I just put it back, and then it goes right back into whatever storage tool that I'm using or wherever it belongs in my storage system. So keep those things in mind as you're labeling. Embossing folders are frustrating to me because you don't really know what they look like. Some manufacturers are now like painting the front of them or coloring the front of them, so you really have a great example of what that's going to look like. I love that. All right. So what you're going to do, you're going to fill your container first. You're going to number each item in the container. You're going to label the container. So in this example, I have 30 embossing folders in this binder. It might say embossing folders 1 through 30. My items in my catalog, it's going to be embossing, FSB, which is flip and storage binder number 1. And then inside that, I've got the numbers of each pocket. So it might be FSB 1 and then the pocket number, right? It might just be stamp bag 1, depending on what you've got and how you choose to number them. More information is better than less. I'll tell you that. It's going to be better to be clear on your labeling, whether it's a bin or a binder or something like this, where you've got this numbered as this. The SKU on this is SS6L. So all of my things that are in here are labeled SS6L number 1, and then row 1 through 6 on that. So you have to determine for yourself how you're going to keep those and how you're going to label those. You may also do things by designer, right? So you may say, okay, I'm going to do all of my Stephanie Bernard stuff in one flip and storage binder, and that's my dies and my stamps together. And then you're just going to put that on your catalog, Stephanie Bernard binder number 1, or Stephanie Bernard, fab file number 1, whatever it is. You're going to do that. So just the idea, get me back to where those things are. All right. One other thing. As you're working through this process, you may come across something that you only have one tool, one embossing folder, or one stamp, or one die for, let's say, for zoo animals. As you're going through everything, you find one stamp, it's a zebra. In your mind, you're like, that's a zoo animal. It's the only zoo animal I have. I'm not going to start a zoo page in my catalog or an animal page in my catalog, however you're going to catalog. Don't do that. Start the page. Give it a number. Label it. Let yourself know where it is, because then as you get more zoo things or more things come in, you're going to just add them. The page is ready to go. It's already set up. You're off to the races. Otherwise, you're going to take that zoo animal, that zebra, and you're going to set it aside and wait. Then it's going to get lost. And when you get your next zoo animal, I don't have any other zoo animals. I'll wait. Pretty soon those things are lost in your room or your craft stash. So no matter if you just have 1 or 2 and you think, oh, I'm going to wait till I get more, don't. Just get started, get it labeled, get it in there, and then you have it and you know where to find it. When you get more stuff, it's going to be easier to add. Okay, I don't think I have any more questions. Let me take a quick peek here with what's popping up from Katie. Oh, I do have another question. Linda LaRoche says, do you copy the Cricut booklet images and put them in the scrap rack? I used to, when I had Cricut cartridges, I think there's one in here actually. That is exactly what I did. Now the booklet images, when you say that, I did not copy the whole booklet because there are some of them have too many things. But this is the back of the box, and it gave me a good idea of what was on there and what the style was in that Cricut cartridge box. So in this case, that is what I did. It was box number 1. I just made a copy of the box and put it in there. So same idea of just tying those things back together. Now, another common question that I get is about Cricut Design Space. Like, how do you organize Cricut Design Space? The things that are in there that you want to use, or maybe things that you've downloaded or whatever. I would do the same thing. I would do an online catalog for things and examples that I had downloaded, things that were unique to me that weren't in my Cricut Design Space, sorted the same way, same 4-section system. It's actually only 3 because there's no rainbow, but I would do the same thing and keep it in the same, organized in the same way, labeled in the same way, so it would be easy to find. The beautiful thing about Cricut Design Space or anything else like that is it has a search function. So if you want to see all the birthday hats in Cricut, you just type it into the search function and then it's going to show all of those in Design Space. So you don't really need to have any sort of catalog of them because, first of all, they're constantly changing or adding new things. But second, it's searchable. So you can search for exactly what you want. Like in a perfect world, and it's funny because my son and I were actually talking about this. In a perfect world, every product, every die, stamp, embossing folder that a manufacturer made would have a little code on it that you could scan right into your catalog. And then you would have all the information, the size, the shape, how to use it, blah, 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 on one big digital catalog, which would simplify the whole process. We can't, even if they started doing that tomorrow, we can't go backward on all the things that we have in our studios. So we'd have to get that cataloging done, but it would make a lot of sense to have that, the ability to, scan that and then just have all of your supplies searchable that way with dimensions and tips for using and all that kind of stuff. Maybe someday, maybe that'll be my next project. We'll do a crafty catalog app. So, which is what I was talking about with my son, actually. Okay. All right, so yes, I would include your Cricut. If you still have Cricut cartridges, I would include those. And again, depending on how many are in the booklet, I'm not sure you need all of them because generally in those Cricut booklet and those Cricut cartridges, they are by theme. Like that one was all travel. There's all birthday. There's, alphabet ones or whatever, and then where you have the whole example there. So, but you definitely want to include them. You want to remember that you have them, especially the cartridges. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to this week's challenge. There's no more questions. So I'm going to talk through what your checklist is for the week, and then I'll go through quickly at the back of your handout. You have got, for the assignment, you have got several pages of different options there. So I'll talk about those options and who I think would be best served by which ones and why after we're done with this. What you need to get done this week. Okay, first thing, catalog 20 things a day for the next 7 days. That's going to give you 140 items this week. Now, one of the beautiful things about that is you can count the whole tray, the 20 stamps in one store and go bag as 20 things. So before you let yourself get overwhelmed and you think about how, there's some things that you're going to be able to bang that out really quickly. It's going to be very easy, right? So 20 things a day for the next 7 days. That's 140 things in the week. If you're still sorting paper, I want you to sort 4 more inches of paper. If you're still sorting photos, squeeze in another box of photos or a year of photos if you're doing them digitally. Then, of course, you want to finish up those embellishments. So if you're still working on those, get 1 more container of embellishments done. Those of you that are using widget books, make sure that you're writing in your widget notebook, checking that off, that you got something done, that you stayed focused on the day. You're going to post on Facebook for your progress posts. And if you're not using Facebook, then you definitely want to send us an email with your progress post so that you can get into the drawing. And then last but not least, you definitely want to enjoy that reward. The reward is really important. Don't discount it. It's one of the things that keeps your brain working the way it should be working. Okay, for those of you who don't want to talk product, thanks for popping by today. Thanks for joining us for the Get Organized Challenge. I'm excited to see what you do this week, to see your photos and your progress posts on Facebook and via email. Those of you who want a little bit more information about product, I'm going to talk through the product lists that are on your handout. Now, if you printed this instead of downloaded it, I'm thinking most people probably did both. All of the things on here are linked if they can be. There are 2 new buddy bags on this I noticed today that we expected them to be in stock by the time this happened, and they're not here yet. They are linked. I don't know where those links go. That's going to be a mystery link. So let's get started. First thing, Die Stampin' Supply Organizer is a great tool for, I'm going to pull this one off the shelf here. It is a great tool for embossing folder, dies, unmounted stamps. It creates that little filing system right on your desktop, right out in front of you. Again, labeling by number on there. If you want to have your stamps in pockets, right? They're going to be, you can use the pockets that are Die Stampin' Supply pockets. They come in three different sizes, but they're great for, again, dies, stamps, anything that needs to be inside a little pocket, and they fit perfectly in the Die Stampin' Supply Organizer. Again, right, long embossing folders, long dies, because you have sort of that unlimited space. Kathy Craft Room, always only craft at home. Want to keep everything out, visible and accessible. This is a great tool for you. Die Stampin' Supply Organizers, not good for you if you are someone who travels with your craft supplies. They're heavy, they're bulky, and they are not designed, obviously, for that use. Also, the Die Stampin' Supply Organizer, great for tools like scissors and punches, any kind of hand tools. So just while I'm talking about that one. So it has you definitely want to get the optional dividers that you can get, because that's going to allow you to segment off every section. So if you're using it for things like water brushes or punches or cutting tools, airbrush, scissors, that allows you to make those sections smaller to hold exactly what you want, or I guess larger as well. So Die Stampin' Supply for hand tools, which I didn't talk about at all today. Those things, hand tools, again, your most popular things, the things that you want to use all the time, you want those out there in front of you on your workspace. So the Die Stampin' Supply Organizer is great for Kathy Craft Room, or the Ditto Bag is awesome for someone who travels. You can use it open on your desktop, close it up, and throw it in your lowest tote when you're traveling. So those type of tools are great in the Ditto Bag. The flip-in storage pages, I have one here that fit in your scrap rack. Now, the 12 by 12 binders, right? All the scrap rack pages fit in the 12 by 12 binders. So if you wanted to use something like a flip-in storage page for your embossing folders, you can see I've got this one labeled 4 by 6 embossing folders on the top, 5 by 7 embossing folders on the bottom. And then you can also store those in the big binder. The big binders do fit on the top shelf of the paper cart with no problem. You've got the divider rails in there that help them stand up. But when you have them on the top shelf, you cannot use the tabletop. They're just a little bit too tall at the same time. So just be aware of that. Fab files come in every size, every shape. They're ideal for paper crafting tool storage for things like embossing folders in 4 by 6, embossing folders in 5 by 7, unmounted stamps, dies on the magnetic sheets. They're all going to fit in on that fab file. So specifically, the magnetic sheets come in 5 by 7 pockets for the magnetic sheets in 5 by 7. So a great way to store coordinating dies and stamps together if that's what you want to do. Stamps in the pocket, dies on the magnetic sheet in the pocket. Really, really easy. Something just popped in here from Katie. So let's see what we've got. I have embossing folders that are 6x12. They do not fit in the fab file, but I want to keep all my embossing folders together. What do you suggest? If you've got embossing folders that are 6x12, you're probably going to have to go with something like the binder storage, and then you can put them right into the 6x12 pocket, the double extra long or the vertical double pocket. Those would fit in, and then your smaller embossing folders in the smaller pocket. So it could be the flip-in storage pages, or it could be the 5x7 pockets or the 4x6 pockets. Different manufacturers call something 4x6, and they're either bigger or smaller. So there's a little bit of variety there. One of the things about creating that catalog is it becomes then less important for all of your embossing folders to be together. So if you travel with your embossing folders, I would go with a binder anyway, because you can get tons in there and they're easy to travel with. If you are a Kathy Craft Room, you might also like the die Stampin' supply organizer, because the 6x12 embossing folders are going to fit in the back, because the back of that is 15 inches across. So you can segment it off and be able to put those standing up, which the long ones that I have that are like 3x12 fit perfectly in there. Same with those dies, the Sizzix dies that are, I don't remember what they call them, but they're on the black plastic, those fit in there as well. So depending on who you are, what type of crafter you are, Kathy Craft Room or someone who likes to travel, I would go binder or die Stampin' supply organizer. The die file, also currently available on HSN and on our website. Great for home use. And it does have the pockets that you can put the whole panel into. So if you're going to travel with dies for a particular theme or event, you can pull the panel out of your die file, slip it into the pocket, and then take it with you, bring it home, and slip it right back into the die file. So it's a great option for storing dies. Also, again, dies are going to work great in the die Stampin' supply organizer, on the magnetic sheets, in the pockets, or in the tab divider pockets, or in the just the regular die pockets if you don't want to use the magnetic sheets everywhere. They also fit great in the fab file. The 5x7 fab file is probably our #1 most popular die storage, is going to be that 5x7 fab file. Now, the Kirsten and Katie bags out now, 8x5 pocket in Katie, 9x6 pockets in Kirsten. They're coming up a little bit later. I'm going to pull them out right now since I'm talking about dies though. I believe that Stephanie Bernard has both of these on her website. I'm not sure if they're both in stock. I think Katie is. Katie's the tall one. So Katie is 8x5. She comes with 8x5 tabbed pockets. These are our classic tabbed pocket, 5 in a set. The 8x5 magnetic sheets also fit in that tabbed pocket, okay? We do have a second 8x5 pocket. 8x5 magnet will fit in there as well. This one has a flap on it. So kind of depending on what you're putting in there and what sort of security you want, there are 2 different 8x5 pockets, one with a flap and one without a flap. Both of them fit into the Katie buddy bag. So there's Katie. Now I also have kind of these extra long slimline stencils, and you can see they stick out. Here's the top of the pocket. They stick out of the top of the pocket, but because of the height, Katie's height here, they still fit in the back part of the Katie buddy bag. So Katie's going to give you 8x5 pockets, 8x5 magnets. She's got that vertical height. And then Kirsten is the 9x6 pocket. Now you can see I've got the 8x5 magnet in there. There's extra room. You don't need the magnet to go edge to edge, because even if you had a die that went edge to edge, that's still going to be plenty of magnet to hold that die in place. But it does work great for the bigger stamp sets. You can see I've got 2 stamp sets in here, 2 totally different like big stamp sets. Stamps and dies together. I'm trying to see if there's anything. This is a brand new, I haven't even played with this yet. We don't have them in stock. Stephanie does, or Stephanie has released them already, and she did have them in both pink and black. There is the slimline die. So that is going to fit, again, this is 9x6. So you got a little bit more space in the Kirsten bag for something that's long, like the slimline dies, which are so popular. And then again, if you have the coordinating stamps to go with the slimline dies, that's going to work great for you as well. So the Kirsten Buddy bag or the Katie Buddy bag, both great for dies and stamp storage as well, on your shelf or portable. The punch bags, there's one with large punches. Oh, there's mediums over there, right? Large punches. The punch and supply packs are perfect for punches. That's what they were designed for. So if you want to go vertical with your punches, you want to be able to store them like a library, this is a great option. Unfortunately, with the giant punches like these, there just really isn't anything that's going to allow you to store lots of things together. So we did consider doing some bigger versions of this, but then all of a sudden you've got a bag that's, is so heavy that the material of the bag can't hold it together. But so different sizes of punches, again, getting that vertical, getting that library, pull this off the shelf over here, getting that library of punches, again, you're able to label them, catalog them, and then pull them off and on the shelf as you want to. Punches are also going to fit in the 4-level Stadium Arranger. Now, the Stadium Arrangers and the Die Stampin' Supply Organizer are all available at Big Joanne stores. So if you're looking for them, if they're not on our website or you don't want to pay the shipping, look at the Joanne store, the Big Joanne store near you, possibly on their website as well. They may have them. I haven't looked, but it would make sense that they were also offering them on web sales. Use your 40 off coupon. We all love that. So if you're looking for a Die Stampin' Supply Organizer, even the Pen and Ink Palace, but the 6-level Stadium Arranger, which is what the wood stamps are in here, all of those are available at Big Joanne stores. Also, and the 4-level Stadium Arranger is a great storage for punches as well. Paper cart, I'm not sure. I guess it's probably got added here because you can store your binders full of, which could have stamps, embossing folders, or dies in them on that paper cart. You can also fit 2 die files on the bottom or top shelf of the paper cart. So if you wanted to have your dies and paper together or dies and stamps together, the paper cart might work great for putting those 2 die files onto that as well. And then quickly on the Ditto bag, a great place to store your tools that you use all the time. If you're someone who travels, easy to take the Ditto bag with you and bring it back and use it on your workspace. If you are Kathy Craftroom and you always stay at home, then the Die Stampin' Supply Organizer is a great tool for that as well. You're also going to find things like that aren't on here, like the We Are punch boards, which work great in. This is a vinyl roll storage tray. Punch boards are wonky, right? They have all these different shapes. They're not flat. They're hard to stack. They're great in your vinyl roll organizer sets. It's a perfect solution for them. These also work well in the 8x5, 8.5 by 11 A4 paper handler, kind of the same idea. And then you can just label them in the front. And then when you need them, just pull them on and off your shelf. There's extra space in those boxes, so you can have the instruction booklet in there. That was the flower one. So I had the flower stems and the flower centers in that box as well, sort of keeping all those things together. Those are not listed on here, and I regret to say that they are currently out of stock, but they will be back. So they're a great way to store your We Are punch boards. Probably the best solution I've come up with. And then, of course, Kirsten and Katie are the last 2 buddy bags there on the list, which I've already talked about. I skipped ahead on that. All right. So if you don't have any questions, I am going to turn you loose to get busy on your Get Organized challenge this week. Challenge number 5, getting your tools organized. I'm just going to pop in here one last time and make sure I didn't miss any questions. Nope, I'm all caught up. But again, if you do have questions, you can email us, customerservice@totally-tiffany.com. You can also pop onto the Facebook group, the Get Organized Challenge Facebook group, and ask a question, because there's almost always somebody there 24/7 on that group who can answer a question, provide you with a link or other information that you need as well. I think that's it. So thanks so much for popping by today, for participating in the Get Organized Challenge. Remember, you want to get your progress posts up so that you can be in the drawing to get that gift certificate each week. And if you have not yet joined the Get Organized Challenge email list, remember that we do send out updates and links to different things like the handouts via the email list. So there's some benefit to being on that list. You might want to pop on the website and join that as well. I think I got it all. Thanks so much for being here today. I look forward to seeing all of you next Tuesday. Oh, one last thing. Totally Tiffany Takeover on Crafters TV on Saturday, the 24th. So from 11 to 1 Pacific time, which is 2 to 4 East Coast. 3 hours difference, yes. And I think it starts at 5. No. We're 8 hours from the UK, 7 o'clock Saturday night in the UK. So Totally Tiffany Takeover on Saturday, Crafters TV on the Crafters Companion website. Pop in and see us then. We're going to talk about all kinds of great stuff. All right. Have a great day. Thanks so much.